Morning. Popcast? That has to be a slur of some kind. Morning, Keon, Tux, vibe stuff. Brush it. Where? Dox yourself, Brush. What airport you currently at? Pepe. Denver. Ain't nobody at Denver playing Splatoon. Hey, when are you gonna get back home so we can make the map list for Lowen? That's all I really care about. Magic says hi. Why does Magic say hi? Are you two with each other right now or something? I did, but you gotta make the graphic for it. Look at Twitter, that's a trap. I know better than to look at Twitter. Hey, there's a direct on Wednesday. Lower the music audio. Having a watch party at an airport? You know, I once interviewed Rizza while she was at an airport getting ready to leave Shine. So the Popcast does have a history of airport stuff, airport related stuff, so there you go. There's Magic. See, you didn't need Pepe to speak for you. No, Brush, don't buy a Wi-Fi. There's no guarantee it's actually going to work, too. Like, I've been a part of, I think United has, like, free Wi-Fi. Well, not free Wi-Fi, but, like, free, like, you can watch movies or, like, their streaming stuff and stuff like that. And it just doesn't work. Just because you buy Wi-Fi in the air doesn't mean you're gonna get it. It's gonna be, I mean, you're flying across the world. That fact alone is mind-boggling. The fact that you can get Wi-Fi on top of it is just like, okay, this is, at some point we gotta dial back the futuristic stuff here. Arabo. welcome. Hello. Ultra Yeats. Pincher. P1 Incher. Can I just say, I like the fact that they got Pincher on to do the interview at the end of it. I don't think it's quite often that they actually talk to a player like at the actual event. I know Big House tried to do it, but it just didn't work out with all the like commercials and ads that they had to play there. Shine did it at the end, but they could tell they were also very rushed at the end of Shine. It was like, all right, Krim, wrap it up. We gotta go. Bye. But I'll say this. I think it's okay to drop an S-bomb. I saw Pincher be hesitant to drop one and then realized, oh wait, this is Splatoon. I shouldn't be saying any dirty words. I think it's fine because A, you're not on IPL. You're not on ESPN 8 The Ocho. You're not even on like that secondary Nickelodeon noggin. Like they didn't even put you on that. They put Splatoon on Genesis GG_6 combo meal number 2 set hut hike. Like I'm pretty sure you're allowed to drop a curse word here or there if they're gonna put you on that kind of a channel. So that's just my thought on how that worked. They told him to be PG. All right, fair enough. What are they gonna do? They didn't tell how come Splatoon has to be PG, but I see the Smash Melee players dropping F-bombs left and right during their interviews on Top 8 yesterday. They didn't care. Not that I'm advocating for people to curse during Splatoon broadcast. It was just something I noticed. What's up, Falco? Falco, thank you for the suggestion to reach out to SofaKing as well. As soon as you sent me that, I was like, hey, that's a good idea. And I instantly got that set up. I wouldn't have thought to do that. I like it when I only have to come on here and talk for 30 minutes, and then I can just play video for another 30 minutes. Riptide is a lock. Good. The pop guns will be at Low Tide City minus PJ. We're not going to fly with PJ. Grandparents are going to come up here and stay with them. Riptide, we will be there with PJ. It's just a 5-hour drive for us. See how that goes. just go into LTC as a spectator, not playing. Not doing a low-ink staff pickup. Sounds extremely unfun. Do I want to? Yeah. Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are waiting still in line to get into the venue, pretending to be shocked that Shiver won another Splatfest, having your plane land early in the wrong city due to the toilets being on the plane being too full. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Happy President's Day from all of you that celebrate presidents. I guess is the reason why we don't go to work today, or at least I didn't go to work today. Fun fact, our daycare is closed on President's Day as well. So if I thought I was going to get a day alone at the house to just enjoy life, nope. I had to stick around with PJ the entire day, which is great because PJ has now gotten to a point to where he is sleeping all the way through the night consistently. And it's like I've entered a new chapter of my life at this point, and it's so easy. PJ had two-hour naps today at home, and it was fantastic. So if you guys are in the market of creating a human, the first 6 months, I'm not going to lie, kind of suck. But now, once they start sleeping all the way through, it's like, yeah, I got a kid, and he's napping. This is great. All for naps. I believe today is a bath day for him as well. The Nautilus kit came out today. I didn't even know there was a second Nautilus kit. It's got Cuban Bomb, whatever that is, and also Splashdown. I just want to point this out. Again, I totally get it. That kit sucks. That is a garbage kit. However, I want you guys to realize in the world we live in, it sucks. In the world where 99.9% of casuals that don't really understand anything about this game, they love the fact that Nautilus has Splashdown. I guarantee you, everybody who owns a copy of Splatoon, there's probably more people that like that kit than those of us that know better. And that's why a lot of these kits just kind of are pretty bad. I'm not even going to lie. But that doesn't mean they're not fun. That new Squiffer kit, that looks like a lot of fun. I don't know how viable that is for competitive, but I'm happy that low ink is a thing because you guys aren't afraid to use crappy weapons like that in low ink, and I get to commentate it. So I'm going to have fun, even though I'm not going to touch any of those weapons. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. Believe it or not, it is low ink week. So Magic, Pepe, if there's anybody around you that is eligible for low ink, make sure they sign up this week sooner rather than later. Our staff is standing by to verify you. So make sure you do that. It was supposed to take place last weekend, but we realized Genesis was going on and we didn't want to run during Genesis. So it's going to be taking place this week, late into the month of February. Also going on this weekend are the Sindao Q season finals. That is going to be streamed on Saturday. And I don't know if the standings are done, but I don't know if the 12 teams have been confirmed. I don't know if everyone has to like, hey, we're not going to be available that day. So like the team below us has to step up or something. But just looking over the roster of the players that are here, this is pretty much all the teams you want to see. Jackpot, Starburst, basically Alliance Rogue with Primano in place of Kiver. An Obito team is in here. The whatever version of FT Win this is here. A lot of strong teams. Oh, hey, Moonlight's in there as well. That's pretty cool. So make sure you check that out. There's going to be a huge tournament that you guys are going to want to watch this upcoming weekend. Busy weekend in the competitive Splatoon world. Today, we are going to be chatting with SofaKing, the captain of Whip Rays that was at the event and is the official Popcast correspondent, Johnny on the Spot live interview from at the end of Grand Finals on Saturday. We recorded it live at the venue, kind of ish. We couldn't do the recording in the venue because the connection inside that place was horrible. So we got a shot of SofaKing in the lobby telling us basically all of the stuff about the event. Not just SofaKing's perspective, but just what all actually went on and happened there. Social life, the tournament itself, Wahoo polls. It was a lot of good stuff. A lot of good learning that we did there listening to that. So that chat is coming up. All that and more. But first. Mickey Mart, I guess, is the name of this team. Lynn, Pepe, Arito, and Pincher are going to be on this team. This team has to be a contender. It has to be with a roster like that, especially Lynn at a LAN is usually Lynn Sanity. Just destroying people last Riptide and on a really good roster here of some players. Arito, I believe, was on a team that almost knocked off Moonlight in Proving Grounds yesterday. So this is going to be a solid team. Definitely a contender to win the tournament. Are they going to win it? No, but they're going to be like one of those top 6, top 5 teams with the roster that they have alone. Well, I was kind of right. I mean, they were a top 6, top 5-ish kind of team, technically. If you disregard the fact where I literally just said, no, they're not going to win the tournament. Everything else I said about there was pretty accurate, I like to think. So there you go. For the first time in human history, one of my predictions was incorrect. But, hey, life goes on, unless it doesn't. I usually like to start off these LAN recap segments talking about anything other than the actual tournament that took place. I like talking about the venue, the social life, how you guys should exit your chairs before you pop off. It continues to blow my mind how some of you just completely disregard the chair that you're sitting in whenever you want to celebrate. Like, there has to be some sort of like thing that checks through your brain of like, okay, we won. I'm going to put this controller down. I'm going to push the chair back. I'm going to stand up, and then I'm going to say, yes, I am the greatest. Like that. Like, some of you really fail at that miserably, and it completely blows my mind. We should do a segment about that. And I always talk about these things other than the tournament, because what do I consistently say about these LAN events? The tournament is just the side event. That's not the point. The point of these events is just a giant get-together, reaching out and getting to meet other people in your community, the actual competitive Splatoon community, not the bullcrap you see on Twitter every other day. I like to talk about that stuff because the tournament is sometimes never really that super interesting. This time around, I was actually interested in what was going on in the tournament itself. By all accounts, though, I shouldn't really be interested. But I did. I found it interesting, even though this tournament that we saw this past weekend is a tournament that I myself have personally seen over 100 times in competitive Splatoon. Let's take the Genesis out of your brain, and I'm going to list some descriptors, and you guys tell me what tournament I'm talking about here. This is a tournament that had a Red Sun team who had a +1 player because they're still recruiting, I'm assuming, a last resort pickup. Neither one of them won the tournament. Instead, it was won by a pickup of +3 players, or players that recently got voted out of +3. That's the team that won it, and they used a pickup name that you're going to forget about in 2 days. What tournament am I talking about? If you said Squid Junction, Proving Grounds, SOS, Triton Cup, Paddling Pool, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer Cup, all of those answers are correct. Literally every single weekly tournament, bi-weekly tournament, monthly, whatever, is the same exact carbon copy tournament of what you just saw at Genesis X over the course of this past weekend. The script of half of those tournaments is literally just that. A Red Sun, last resort, but here comes Butt Fart McGee. They won the whole tournament. Now they're in the help desk. When do I get my sit-down badge? And you give it to them, and then you forget they ever won that tournament. And then they'll show it off to whoever. I won Proving Grounds number 22. Yeah, great. Congratulations. Even I don't care anymore. So if I've seen this exact tournament so many times, why did I find it so interesting? And why was I just so glued to my computer monitor that I'm looking at right now all the way through, even though I already knew how it was going to play out? Well, mostly if you don't listen to my predictions. The big blaring difference between all those other events and this Genesis tournament is that it had as 5 times the amount of viewers that any of those tournaments ever do. Over 500 people were watching the sets live when it happened. I don't know how Twitter or Twitch views the things going backwards of like who watched the VODs afterwards, but it got way more attention than what any of these attempts with this kind of skill level typically would get. The reason being is because you can actually see this tournament right in front of your face. It's one thing when you just got a bunch of overlays and you see some squids lagging through the screen. It's another thing when you see the actual players up there and their emotions and how they respond to things and how the crowd kind of, I assume there was some sort of Splatoon crowd, was reacting to everything that was happening to you. That makes this completely different from everything else that you have to deal with in the past. And it makes it way more interesting for the viewer at home to absorb everything that's going on there. The fact that it's a LAN changes how you view the usual concepts and topics that come from these weekly events. So I got 3 narratives here that we traditionally talk about, and I'm going to tell you how they are different in this LAN environment and how the interest level of those narratives are cranked up to the umpth degree, even though if this were to happen any other time, nobody would really care. Narrative number 1. Mickey Mart proved you can win a tournament without the meta or without having to even use the cooler special. Is this true or not? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, as Pincher alluded to in the post-tournament interview, the players that made up Mickey Mart were all just using their regular mains, and it just so happened that none of them had soda. I don't think it was we're pushing this anti-soda narrative. I think it was just, why should we put somebody on NZAP when we don't have a natural NZAP player and we're all really good with the weapons we want to use anyways? It seems to make sense, and it seemed to work out. So yes, technically they did win the tournament without using cooler and used bow for the vast majority of the sets as well. Which, by the way, adds into this another kind of thing of when people are seeing just this tournament and they don't see anything else, they'll look at this and say, wow, bow is actually really good. No, bow is probably not good, but in the right hands of a player who's been using it consistently to overcome the weaknesses that bow has, you can see for the first time the advantages that bow can really bring you. There was a lot of those things, a lot of those sets, especially on Rainmaker at Crab Leg, where it looked like the other team was getting ready to push the Rainmaker against Mickey Mart, and you see them just stop and just stay at that first checkpoint and never move past it. It's because way off screen, the bow is just firing pop shots over and over again right over there and just kept everybody in check until you saw the blaster or the shot or whatever just start to collapse on top of that thing. That is what you don't traditionally see when people don't really touch bow. But when you get a player that knows how to do it a lot and is really skilled at it, it really highlights things. And you see people start to say, man, this means everyone's going to be using bow in solo queue now. Is that true? I think there are some people that will be inspired to pick it up after what they saw at Genesis. But you also got to keep in mind the same people that were saying, wow, you're going to see more bow. Those are also the same people in chat that thought Lin was Keo. So it's like, okay, maybe you don't exactly know exactly what's going on here, but you still kind of get the concept of that. So yes, technically Mickey Mart won without Cooler. Does that mean that everyone could be winning tournaments without Cooler, though? No, it doesn't. That's not the narrative you should take away from this. Can you technically win a tournament? Yes. But if winning a tournament means that it is viable across the entire scope of the competitive scene, Low Ink would have changed the meta years ago. And lo and behold, you don't see people running double roller comps outside of Low Ink that much, do you? It tends to happen. And no disrespect to Red Sun, but let's back up here a little bit and put this into perspective. Red Sun on the Sindao.Q leaderboard is number 23 right now, which is still really good. They're above a lot of really solid teams, but they're not in the top 20. And this doesn't really necessarily translate from one thing to another. Wow, we won a tournament without Cooler. Yeah, I guarantee you, though, you're going to see a lot of Cooler in the Sindao Q finals coming up on Saturday. So take it with a little bit of a grain of salt there. Also, this isn't the first time we've seen somebody win a tournament going completely off meta in an impressive way. Do you guys remember in Splatoon 2, there was a Squid Junction in the middle of the shooter meta, a team called Foams. You might have heard of them. They're still a thing right now. Foams won a Squid Junction in the shooter meta without using a single shooter. I believe they used Carbon, Slosher, I want to say Charger, and a Blaster. No shooter, and they won a tournament with that. And that was a cool talking point for like a day. But does that mean that they completely busted the shooter meta and all these K-shots went away? No, that's not at all what that means. It's still a cool narrative and a talking point. It's not a meta-defining, changing moment when these things happen. But again, because Foams won on Squid Junction and Mickey Mart won on Genesis X, Mickey Mart's going to get way more attention because of, well, we're all paying attention to it live in front of our face. Whereas I didn't even know Foams won that tournament until they tweeted it out after it was already done. Narrative number 2, and this is something that Magic and Shy brought up during their commentary block, the changing of the guard. We've seen a lot of people that played in multiple LAN events, probably back before when Smash and Splash was even a thing, for those of you that have been around the scene old enough to participate in those events. We've seen these players come out and continuously play at Low Tide City and Riptide and Genesis. What we're not seeing those players do is hold firm to their standing in the competitive scene. I saw a lot of players who I personally watched play in Low Ink a year ago, a year and a half ago, knock off a lot of really strong teams and players that I looked up to when I started playing 4 years ago. It really just kind of highlights this concept I've been thinking about. And when I was on Gus's podcast, we talked about this narrative of, well, Low Ink used to be harder back in the day. That's complete bullcrap with where you see these players are now. Younger, newer generation of players are way better than what teams and players were at their point in time of their competitive career 2, 3, even like 1 year ago. Players are getting out of Low Ink being a lot better than what they ever have been in the past. And, well, they're now starting to win these LAN events. Like Genesis X should not be a tournament where we see these kind of players win that close removed from Low Ink. But look how strong they've gotten so quickly. And not just the teams that win, but the teams that finish in the top 5 of the podium spots right here. You're seeing a changing of the guard. And this could be a different segment at another time. There's so many great topics to talk about on the podcast here in the upcoming future. But I'm convinced that we are going to get one more season where Ludi divs are going to hold any kind of credibility, and then they're going to completely fall off and everything's going to change. There's a lot more deeper thoughts to go into that. But the reason I'm bringing that up now is if we get one more Ludi season, these teams that have just held on to these spots and like the Div 1s and the Div 2s, you got to keep in mind there's only 24 teams that get those divs. And if somebody's going to move up, you're going to have to hold on to your spot or someone's going to take it from you. I think a lot of these teams are going to have their spots that they traditionally hold on to. They're going to be snatched up from you because a lot of these newer generation, the changing of the guard are going to start ripping people apart. And they've already been showing it as they did in Genesis. It's the hunter versus the hunted mentality, and there are a lot of hunters out there, which leads into my third narrative of what I picked up from this event. The hunter versus the hunted. The team that's looking to get upsets and isn't scared of anyone they play versus the team that is in win at all costs mode. Anything short of a gold medal is a failure in our eyes versus the hunter that's just happy to be there and happy to throw punches at anybody that's in their way of the punches they want to throw. I've been bringing this up a lot in low ink, but this narrative transcends low ink and goes on to a bunch of other tournaments as well, especially ones in the skill level that we saw here at Genesis. And I was right when I said that Z-tier players, they were going to be the hunters of the event. They were hunters. The problem is I got the wrong hunter team. I didn't realize Mickey Mart was going to be the straight up Elmer Fudd of the entire event. It was just going to blast everybody away. But what happens when you're in that mindset? I always talk about it. I always allude to it being a thing, especially with teams that don't make alpha. But when they make alpha bracket of low ink that first time, they got a way different mentality than when they're a team that's making alpha bracket 3, 4, 5 months in a row. Clashing ideologies between those two teams right there. And you saw it live. You saw it on people's faces on stream. And that makes it completely different. Whenever Mickey Mouse won a game, not the set, a game, it was a doggone party they were having on the stream. They were hopping up out of their chairs, flexing their muscles. At one point, it looked like they had a choreographed dance that they were trying to do in front of the stage. And it looked like someone was trying to be like, no, don't do that. Go move away or sit down or something like that. It looked like they were just coming up in the middle of the sets. Hey, when we win this game, what are we going to do? You guys want to like pose or something or like do a little dance or whatever. They were clearly getting hyped up about every single individual win they were getting. If you looked at Red Sun in Final Fantasy, though, whenever they won, it was just more of a nice. We won a game. Nice. All right. What's the next game? Yes, it's Tower Control Art Academy. How lovely. I'm so looking forward to playing this game. It was just so much more chill and relaxed. Why? Because those teams shouldn't be happy if they're beating these other teams. They've been beating them for their entire lives almost. Versus these hunter teams just taking one game. Just taking one game off of a team that has Pro Chara on it is enough to get anybody excited because that's the way they see it. I didn't beat the team I didn't beat this pickup. I beat Pro Chara's pickup. I wonder what that kind of pressure is like, just having that kind of attention just brought onto these kinds of things. But you see it visually in people's faces. The people that are excited to be just getting individual wins versus the ones that are like, okay, we need to move on. We need to win this tournament. That's the only thing that's going to get us up and excited. And I'm not sitting here saying that teams need to pop off after every single win. That is not the case at all. There's a lot of people that are just naturally reserved and don't really go through any of that stuff. A case in point, when I played at Low Tide City as we were reverse sweeping Cherry Limeade, this is how I celebrated every single win. by looking like I was absolutely miserable and wanted to be anywhere else on planet Earth. So, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to pop off about things if you want to be successful in tournaments. You can be reserved. But I just find it interesting because Red Sun was that team that was super chill when they were getting wins at this event. But when I saw Red Sun in front of my face at Riptide 2022, when they first made their change from being a like quote unquote mid-level team to, okay, now we are legit and now we are going to become sponsored. We're going to become In Control Red Sun. That Riptide, they were having a party every single time they won. And every time they were upsetting teams, it was a massive wave. Like you saw them give the same kind of reaction that you saw Mickey Mark do when they were winning through Genesis here. Now, it's not the same exact roster. The Red Sun roster at that Riptide is not one-to-one the same as what you had at Genesis X. But still, at 2022 Riptide, Red Sun was the hunter, and it showed with their expressions and how they treated every win. This time around, they were 100% the hunted, and it showed again on their facial expressions and how they reacted to every single win that they got. It's an interesting point, and it's something I've been bringing up before time and time again, but you actually see it happen in front of people's faces. It brings a whole different perspective into it. So all of these narratives come together, and again, we talk about these like almost every week on the Popcast, so it's not anything new. There's nothing groundbreaking that's going on at this Genesis X, but the fact that you can actually see it happen, and you can react to it as a viewer, and you could go on Twitter and talk about it, and you can basically talk to the players that are there because they're looking at their phones during the sets anyways as well. It's just reason number 6,000 why LANs are so freaking awesome in this scene. And yes, would Genesis X have been better if it brought the names worthy of a Genesis tournament? If we saw the FT wins and the Starburst and the jackpots there? Yes. Is it extremely difficult and not really financially viable for those teams to all go out to the same event, especially when it's in California and the fees are high and they're all jackpots going to be going to Japan later anyways? Like it's difficult to get those that matchups that we saw at Big House when we first had that, where it was all the strong top level teams doing pickups or actual team Sayonara Starbursts of the world playing together. Even when they're not here, a LAN can still be incredibly exciting, even if it's something you've seen on online tournaments time and time again. Because when you can actually see it from the LAN perspective, even though it's the same exact product from the viewership side of things, it's 100% different, and it makes everything that much more interesting. LANs are awesome. It doesn't matter who's playing in it. I will say, Gus says, I will say that all it takes is getting that practice to reach the next level. I think that's one reason of many why high top level teams have been the same people. It's like working out. You rip your muscles by pushing your limits and you get stronger. Gus, you would know a thing or two about working out, wouldn't you? I'm surprised you got those guns, those arms of yours past the metal detector, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I mean, that's true. And the pyramid method, just because you get banned from low ink doesn't mean you're going to have like the same kind of rise that everybody else is going to have. Like if you get banned from low ink, a lot of those teams are just going to fall off and fade away and become podcasters and commentators and TOs. But the ones who stick through it and do grind through, as you're mentioning, yeah, they get the rewards. They get the rewards waiting for them, and they keep leapfrogging these teams that have been here for a while. Believe it or not, there were other events that went on this weekend. So before we get into our chat with SofaKing, it is now time to run through the weekly recap. Today, thank you. Paddling pool number 253 took place last Wednesday. It was won by Frutella. French Plus Sus took second place in the Lynn Fan Club, got the bronze medal. Can I just say, the Lynn Fan Club had Lynn playing in it. You can't do that. You can't be a part of your own fan club. That's the most narcissistic thing ever. If you're going to name your team Lynn Fan Club, Lynn should not be allowed to play with it. That makes absolutely no sense, even though they still got third place in that tournament. Frutella winning their second straight paddling pool. They won 252 the week prior. SOS number 138 took place last Wednesday as well. OCE Pickup won the whole tournament. Moss has Negative Riz took second place, and GG Go Next rounds out your top three. That means those words I just said mean absolutely nothing to anybody, unfortunately, other than the OCE Pickup. Dapple started another OCE tournament, correct? IPL tried to bring back Reef Rushdown twice, and neither one of them were successful enough, despite a good attempt from the folks that were trying to run that. So hopefully, I don't know, has Dapple's OCE tournament been going well? I hope it does, or I hope it has been, and there's something that can build off of that. It's still, though, OCE still coming in and winning a quote-unquote NA tournament in SOS number 138. Hammerhead was won by Slay Queens. Mako Bracket was won by The Thinker. And Lantern Bracket was won by Skishu. Excuse me. Mode Cup 10 was won by Jackpot. NFT Win got second place. And Gru is the team that finished in third. This was a Splat Zone only tournament where 37 teams signed up in a double elimination bracket on Saturday. Jackpot is peaking at the right time. If they're looking to win this upcoming Sindao Q Finals and get revenge against Starburst, they've been doing all the right things the past couple of weeks in order to accomplish that. Jackpot, clearly the best team in the world right now, outside of Japan. Also, Silver Bracket was won by Six Pack Yokes. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Six Pack Yokels, I believe, is the team that won the Silver Bracket, so congratulations to them. That was your weekly recap. Sponsored by Name Brand Energy Drink. If you are looking to get a little bit of energy in liquid form, which is probably one of the most unhealthy things you could do on planet Earth, legally, try a name brand energy drink. It can help you fly. It is the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. Who's that knocking at the door? Is that SofaKing? Is that what's going on right here? It is approaching 11:10 here on the East Coast, but that is not the case in San Jose, California, where we are joined by SofaKing, captain of the Whip Rays, land journeyman, been to Low Tide City, Riptide, and Big Dapple, and somebody who's hoping to get the banned from Lowick certificate from Brush next year, I'm sure. SofaKing, how's morale in San Jose?
Morale's pretty high, sunny San Jose. I'm a native of Cleveland, Ohio, similar to Falco's, also an Ohio boy, and it is not this nice out in Cleveland. It is, a nice 60 degrees, no rain, sunshine. We are vibing for sure.
Wait, really?
And definitely hope
60?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you guys got in Cleveland, but here in Indy, we literally just got 4 inches of snow yesterday. All at once. Yeah, so like, you're really going to flex on us with that right now? Sunny, too?
Yeah, no, in San Jose, not in Cleveland, let me clarify, but in San Jose, I've been loving it this weekend.
Yeah.
My friend who's from California is like putting on a jacket when we go outside. I'm not even wearing my hoodie. I'm like, what are you doing, bud? It's 60 degrees. I've got my shorts on, but, it's that I feel like that's the Midwestern way, right?
Yes.
As soon as that temperature is bearable, You got to be just stripping everything down.
You build up a sort of winter immunity sort of to it,
Oh
to where,
yes.
yeah, it's like 55. Man, why am I even got like sleeves on? It's toasty out
Yeah.
here. So give us a little. Where are you right now? Because we were when I originally set this up. This was kind of going to be like what I did with Falco at Riptide, live in the venue. Uh, you do not look like you're at the venue right now. Where are you?
So I remember seeing that at Riptide. That was pretty darn awesome. Unfortunately, that is just straight up not possible at this venue. I'll give you a little live look in as to what I'm looking at here. So you're going to see that I'm slightly outside the venue. You see some gamers kind of heading home after the day's events. Behind me is where the venue is and security check-in. It's essentially the reason why we couldn't do it in there is because you might be able to see that that venue is pretty much a gigantic block of concrete. It's one big warehouse in which every Genesis event is taking place. That's Smash Ultimate, Smash Melee, Splat 3, all the other fighting games they have going on, all the side events, arcade food, everything is packed into one big box of solid stone. And most people, myself included, my phone's internet it could not connect to a darn thing. I'm sitting in there refreshing on my Start GG. We're using somebody's hotspot. Like we've got 20 people connecting to one dude's hotspot who can get out of this box. That was a bit of a disaster. So that's why I'm out here, because if I wasn't, I would be a little bit choppy and probably not understandable.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what Big House was like a couple of years ago. I keep seeing on Twitter about these long lines to like check in. What was, or so first off, there were metal detectors for this. Is that
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can actually show you one right here. There's here. So we
live
got
look
metal
at the
detectors at
security
the
feature?
security
Okay,
gate.
yeah, those are.
Yeah.
I've never seen those at a land. That's good.
Me neither. I was shocked.
Yeah.
So I think it's a positive. The one thing that that image that I showed you does not show is that those are the only ones for everybody. So when we got here at the line situation was a bit of a mess. So we got here on day one. We had our 12 p.m. pools. We got in the line maybe at about 10:20. So we figure we'll get through this line. Like this line couldn't be longer than 30 minutes, right? So we go through the line and then we'll have about an hour to warm up. So we get in the line at 10:20. We're in this line for about 20 minutes. And then they say, okay, now this line that you're in is a priority line for the early pools. If you're in a later pool, please go to a different line. So we went to a different line, and that line, let me show you because the visual is important. That line went from the end of that room to the end of that hall. Oh,
All
not
the way
even that hall.
back to like where the
To the,
three is.
to the
there?
end. No, all the way back to that window. It was literally it was the most amount of people that I think I've ever seen in my life in one line. It was crazy.
So that's
And
to
then
get into the venue. Like
that's to get in the
not to
venue.
get your badge. Like that's just to get it. So anytime you came out, you would have to get back into that line, basically. Okay. But do you have, so you had food in there and you had restrooms in, like you could camp out in there if you needed to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what me and a few other people did all day, both days. We just came in and didn't leave until it was done. Um, and the food was decent, but they also ran out of it. So there was a
Oh,
certain point
what?
tonight where some people were hungry, went to go get something to eat, and they had to turn them away and be like, "Sorry, we're out of personal pan pizzas because everybody in here is hungry, and we've sold out of our $12 4-inch pizzas."
Uh-huh. Okay,
So that
okay.
was a little rough.
But if you had to leave now, you could come back. It seems like the line's gone down. It seemed
Oh
like
yeah,
nobody's
yeah. The
even
line is
manning the.
non-existent.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, funny you should mention that. You might have seen there. I don't think there is a guard there, but yeah. So I could just walk right back in now, go through the metal detector. I believe it is an overnight venue, but I mean now it doesn't matter, right? Like when you're waiting to get in your pools,
Right.
when you're mentally going through what you got to do, that's when you're like, my God, an hour and a half long line. Well, I mean, we were in that line for a total of 2 hours just to get into the venue. So.
That
I don't know. We had the
that
PB
sucks.
going. We were doing some 2v2s with people in line, and every time the line would move, we all had to just like stand still in tower control at ink blot. And Then we sit back down again, like 3, 2, 1, go. All right, let's keep playing. So
A
it was a
gentleman
little messy, but
pause.
that's part of what made it fun. Yeah, exactly. Gentleman's pause.
Were there a lot of like friendly, like melee friendlies going on? I'm assuming.
There were. Oh yeah, this one guy had a fight pad and he was just clicking away on that thing. They had like some Bluetooth speakers playing out some cool music. So, and I think the TOs at some point brought around like a box of like that Dunkin' Donuts boxed coffee. So they're like pouring coffee for people if they wanted while they're waiting in line. They kept apologizing profusely. So I think I think the vibe was good, even though it was irritating. It was more irritating than like infuriating.
Yeah, I from all the lands I've been to, and I know you've been to a ton of them as well. There's nothing I can think of that would relate to that. Like every now and then at Riptide, they'll be like, "Oh, there's a long line at the bag check station," but then you like go back to your room and come back 30 minutes later, it's gone. Yeah, that sucks. So okay, so you get into the venue. Um, and I think anybody who's like looked at the stream gets an idea. It's just a giant open space and everything's going on in there. Um, I think it was Luna who tweeted out a photo of the pole that the stream was on. Was that
Yeah.
just the Splatoon side that had that giant pole right in the middle of everything, or like was Smash dealing with that as well?
Uh, an interesting answer to that question is so at the back of the room, that was the side where they had all the streams going on, and ours was on the far right. And they had maybe like 7 or 8 screens total that were lined up in a row. Every single screen except one was projected from the back. Ours was the only one with the Wahoo World pole. The only one.
Yeah. Okay. That's well, that's unfortunate. I wonder if it was just like because like I've seen a lot of streams where they do have the projector behind everything. So I wonder if they just like ran out of room or something like that, or whatever. But just like comparing Splatoon to the other spaces, like did it feel cramped or did it feel just kind of like an extra thing added on, or did it feel like a part of the event?
Um, I think I should preface this by saying that everybody who is here is overjoyed that Splatoon is back at Genesis. I think it belongs to Genesis. I think it has a space here, 100%. But I think that the nature of the location ended up having us kind of feeling like a little brother most of the time, which was interesting to all of us there. Those of us who were there that I was talking to Jem of Squid School who played with the Whip Race. I was talking to some other folks who have been to a few of these lands to compare. And there was less of a cozy feeling than there was at LTC or Riptide. At those events, the Splatoon area, we have our own room to get hype in. That room is a good hangout place between sets. But I mean, this one was kind of like in this giant concrete wall. There's always a thoroughfare around these things. It's like all these Smash, Melee, etc. players. There's not really a place to stand and congregate for Splatoon folks, unless you are watching that streamed set. And I mean, as far as distractions go, that was another thing, right? So they had this may have come through on the stream broadcast, I'm not sure, but they had a loudspeaker going that was
Yeah.
announcing various events and saying like you go to your set. I think HBox's name was called like 2 or 3 times to get to a set. It's like, bruh, you got to check your phone, man. I guess although the phones weren't working, but
Yeah.
that would interrupt whenever Magic was trying to do something. He would have to stop and wait for the loudspeaker to be done. 10 feet behind the Splatoon section was the DDR section, which I mean, you get ready to start your set, talk to your teammates, put on your headset, and 10 feet behind you, you can still hear the rumbling, the thumping of the DDR, and you're like, my God, man, it's so hard to focus in that gigantic room. Trying to get into that locked in state was really, really difficult there.
Well, so those headsets that the commentators were using, those were the same exact headsets I've seen them use since like the first LAN out of the pandemic. Like literally the same exact ones. And I know for a fact those microphones pick up a lot of things. We didn't hear like any DDR stuff like we wouldn't know if that was going on, but we did hear every single intercom thing. Even if the game was going on, we heard that. If there was it Melee or Ultimate that was right next? We saw like we could see when went to one team's camera, we could see there was like a Smash set next to him, and we could hear like random moments of popping off, and people in chat were being like, they're really hyped for Splatoon," and it's like, no, they're just like picking weapons right
Sadly,
now.
no.
They're not. Yeah,
Yeah, I think directly. So we're on the far right side. So directly to the left of us was, I think, whatever that Nickelodeon All Stars game is.
yeah.
That was what was happening there, which was kind of cool because I haven't seen much of that game. So kind of peeking over there occasionally and seeing the top of that game was neat. And then I think Rivals was next to that, and then it started digging into like the melee and ultimate stuff. Um, but I mean, it was cool. I've never been within sight distance of somebody like HBox or Leffen before, but I got to be today, so that was pretty neat.
What was it? So you guys played. You made the final bracket of silver bracket. I guess tied for third. If that I saw you guys play out through that. What was it like playing in this event? You mean you already kind of mentioned the distractions going on. And I've the first low tide city, Kingmaker was there, and it was the same kind of setup. And there were a lot of teams that were complaining like, we need to call out where all these brushes are, and we can't do it because there's so much noise there. Did that play a factor in like actual gameplay?
Yeah, I think it did. It's interesting because it seems as though Splatoon always runs into this problem with the setups being technically like something is always going wrong. It's either the LAN isn't connecting or the audio isn't good or something. What's interesting about this event, especially, was there were, at least from my experience, there was little to no technical issues whatsoever. The distractions fully came from the fact that you are in this giant thumping carnival of gaming happening all around you at all times. And I mean, Splatoon, it literally feels like you brought Splatoon to like the town fair. Like your parents dragged you to the town fair, and you're over here on your Splatoon playing, and nobody gives a shit about what you're doing because you're just, you're in the middle of something that just feels way bigger than what you're doing. Unless you're on stream. If you're on these other sets, it's like, I don't know. It was just a very strange feeling. But I mean, technically, totally great. The equipment was perfect. And I mean, can we talk about? You probably got a sense of this from the stream, but as far as like the tournament being run on time, I don't think there was a single major delay. Like every pool was finishing pretty much exactly when it should, or even slightly before. It was really very impressively done.
I do. Well, I mean, I agree that it was probably really impressively done. I refuse to believe that there was no delay. I absolutely refuse to believe that. But I mean, I
I don't
there's no
know,
reason
man.
for me not to trust you other than just previous experience with that. Okay, so we got a lot of this. We got a lot of ads, and I get it. This wasn't on like IPL. This was on like ESPN 8, the Ocho, basically was the channel
Yeah.
that they put it on there. And, they have to run ads a lot. And there was a lot of times where they'll finish a set instead of talking about it. They're just like, okay, well, we got to go run an ad break. So I totally get that. Um, was there times where like people were ready to play, but they just didn't get the green light yet? Like they just had to sit in their lobbies and wait for someone to say, yeah, the ads are done. You can start playing now.
I think there was a semblance of that. The ads, honestly, because we didn't have the audio coming out of the stream, mostly we were
Oh,
just
man.
not even really paying attention to them. So between
Right.
sets we would be talking to each other. Honestly, it was probably like music and dialogue that you guys were tired of having thrown at your ears the whole weekend, but it just kind of went totally over our heads. Nobody was even talking about the ads that were on screen. But I mean, as far as delays go, I think that the most impressive thing for me was for LTC and Riptide. Delays are, like you said, delays are a natural part of lands, and you're always kind of looking at your pools. There's always a ping like pool such and such will be starting 40 minutes late. Bear with us. Every time I was looking at when the stream was shifting to another pool, it's like this is exactly when this pool is supposed to start. So I think it was really well done. I mean, Grands was wrapped up by what, like 8 or so p.m. local, which was pretty much. I think that was ahead of schedule of when they wanted to end. The whole thing was just an extremely tightly run ship, and huge shout out to Magic, Siren, Hammer, um, for those guys. Just their experience in running these things was extremely evident at this event in particular.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. And those three do great work, obviously. And it's exciting if this was to continue on for another year. Now, you said it wrapped up early. Well, I think that's because we all assumed Red Sun would be a little bit more competitive. than what they were, or that Mickey Mart wasn't going to be this good, because they looked really good. They looked almost too comfortable at times. It seems like they were just kind of beating people senseless and then doing a party about it every single time, whereas everybody else seemed a little bit tense or a little bit, yay, we won, but we got to get to the next one. I'm curious about this. Well, first off, what was the crowd like? Like, was there a lot of people watching the final sets? We never got a shot of the crowd at all.
Hmm. I think we may get a shot of the crowd eventually because the photographer did something where he wanted to like run down the aisle and then have us all kind of like do a wave or something as he did. So I'm sure that that promo little video segment will come out at some point. Um, the crowd, I'll be honest, the crowd was subdued, and I think it was because the other crowds were so much louder.
Mm.
So our space, even if we were going to get some cheering up, it really wasn't going to be heard. The few people who were standing up, popping off, clapping, it's kind of just getting instantly lost in the noise of everything else that's going on. So I think there was a sizable crowd, but I think that it was interesting. Like it was just, it wasn't as easy to get into it in is effective as a way as it was for LTC, where you've got your own space and you know that everybody in that room, their eyes are glued onto what's happening. It just wasn't. It was not the same for this.
Um, did you get to see the fake pop off in that game 3, where it looked like they were about to KO it?
Oh, where they were gonna knock it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. When they panned the camera to Irito and
yeah,
Mickey Mart, and then had to pan it back when it wasn't. Yeah. And can we talk about missing the checkpoint? I remember
yes.
turning to my teammates like, "Is this little Timmy X rank? They're missing checkpoints in grand finals of a major LAN." I mean, obviously those guys are just. And Pincher said it best in the post game interview. They were just eyes on the prize. They knew they had that medal in their grasp. So it's not like obviously that we're saying that it was a boneheaded mistake or that it means they're not good or whatever. But it just was proof of their ambition to just go in and get the dub, get the upset no matter the cost.
Well, I was looking for something like, okay, eventually this Cinderella run is going to come crashing down. And when they miss the checkpoint, it's funny, but I'm also thinking, like, okay, well, there's the nerves starting to slip through, or there's where the crack in the armor is. And no, it was just a funny moment how we're going to get this win. We're going to all cheer when we didn't even get the KO. Like, and it didn't turn out to be a Cinderella run at all. They were just the better team. Um, so in good, and I was just curious because I've always said about, especially with when Starburst plays, nobody roots for them at a LAN, not because people don't like Starburst, it's just we like the underdog. And it seemed like Mickey Mart was the underdog on paper, at least going up through this. And that's why I was thinking, like, well, that sucks for Red Sun because they've been that team everyone roots for. Now they're the team that everyone's like, oh, I want to see somebody beat them. But it just seemed more like people were just sitting there watching and what didn't have like a strong rooting interest, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even if people aren't having a reaction, that rooting interest is still there. There were a lot of folks up at the front who were popping off for Mickey Mart. I was kind of towards in the middle so that I could avoid the Wahoo pole as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
You had to be on the sides to avoid the Wahoo pole, which is what I was trying to do. But either way, that's besides the point. I think that the general rooting interest definitely was for Mickey Mart for sure. There was certainly a side of it that like you said, they want to see Red Sun win. They want to see Pika win. These folks that at these LTCs and Riptides come so close and are the underdogs that are rooted for. So a part of my heart was definitely breaking for them in that moment. But I mean, Mickey Mart with Len, the blaster. I mean, my God, just anytime that Len was on screen, the triple on stream, everybody popped off for that. That was not a melee pop off. That was a Splatoon pop off for sure for that one.
Yeah, the chat popped off for that too. That was the worst part about it was Lynn started to squid bag and then the camera went away, so we couldn't see the full taunt. That was
No.
rightfully deserved. Uh, but hey, overall, it seemed like everyone had a good time that went there. What is there any kind of social life with this? I mean, obviously there's no fire pit, but is there like a local watering hole or anything people been congregating at?
I don't think that there's a watering hole of that kind. I mean, one thing that you're missing here, as opposed to LTC or Riptide, is you don't have that Kalahari, you don't have that that place that's attached to the venue where you know that everybody's going. That you don't have a place that's giving you water park tickets, that's opening up something at the end. So you've got a nice venue, you've got some nice restaurants in walking distance, you've got some really cool stuff going on, but there's no fire pit at this event, if that makes sense. There's no place where that's happening. It is a little more like Riptide in the sense that if you want to find those moments outside of the venue, you've got to kind of create them by yourself.
Is there places within walking distance? Because like at Big House, we were able to walk like a block or two, and there was like a bar we could hang out at, or a decent local restaurant that's not like a chain that you normally have. Like, is there stuff within walking distance of where
Oh
the
yes.
venue is?
Yeah, there's some really good options. I was talking with Anakin, who's the head CEO of From the Ink Up, who's a local to this area in Kaiser, and they were kind of giving me the rundown of like the good boba place that's nearby. And I think there's a place that we're trying to hit up in a little bit called Pizza My Heart that supposedly has some pretty good pies going on. So there are certainly options to make that happen. But I think that that is something that you have to coordinate. You have to make that walk. It's not just kind of staring you in the face as soon as you exit the venue.
Plans for the rest of the weekend? When are you going back? And are you
So
going to be checking out the Melee Ultimate Finals or anything like that?
I wish I could, but the timing just does not work out for this year. So we did something kind of funky. One of our teammates lives in SoCal, so we flew into SoCal and then took a road trip up to San Jose, which was pretty fun. But what that means is I personally refused to do a 6 hour road trip and a 6 hour flight in the same day. I said, no, we're not doing those both in the same day. Also, I got to get back to work. So the consensus was to road trip back tomorrow, sadly, unfortunately missing the Melee stuff, and then fly out on Monday. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. I think next year I'm probably going to just fly into San Jose. That way I don't miss the big ballroom stuff, the grandiose nature of Melee finals at a super major like this. You can't miss that stuff. And that was definitely one regret that I have from this year.
Yeah, when people think, "Oh, I'm going to drive for 6 hours," where you and I live, it's like, okay, I'm going to be 3 states over. No, in
Yeah.
California, you're just like a few counties up at that point. It's like
Yeah.
just goes on. Same thing with Texas, just goes on forever. Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I appreciate you coming on, being the correspondent this time around, giving us the live shot of where everyone was standing in line. I will say this: when you get on the plane, make sure you have your jacket, hat, and gloves ready to go because you're coming back home to a bunch of bull crap. I'll tell you that right now. Um, Whip Rays playing this month in Low Ink. Planning on it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we're looking for the From the Ink Up band on Friday, and we're hopefully looking for a good day two showing a couple days later.
Well, you know what? We got a ticket or a certificate with your guys' name on it. Well, you guys are
Really?
gonna earn it at something. Well, I mean, not right now. I'm just saying
Oh, it's
when
not
it
already
happens.
printed?
No,
Oh,
like I don't know. Brush is the one who wants to do all of these things. That
ye of little faith.
that is not even my real signature. It would be way better than that. I promise you, if I actually signed it. So,
Well, I would fire up that Konica Minolta because we're going to need that certificate printed out pretty
we'll
soon.
keep it handy. We'll keep it handy. Uh, so thank you again for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your night. It's almost Sunday for me, and well, no, actually, it's Monday right now for everyone as we're watching this live. Right, right.
True, true.
All right, I'll see you at Low Tide City. So I'll see you then.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thank you.
And that was SofaKing, the captain of Whip Rays that has been at a lot of LAN events and was at Genesis X. A few things I want to point out from that interview. Yes, I am wearing the same exact shirt from 2 days ago. No, I haven't been wearing this shirt 2 days in a row. Today was literally laundry day. This shirt got cleaned this morning, and I put it back on so that it would match what I was wearing 2 days ago. So don't think about that. Two, Magic alluded to in chat, the reason the Wahoo poll was in front was so that screen peeking couldn't go on. And I spent the rest of the interview trying to picture that in my head. And I guess there were times at other lands where the projector's like pointing at the back of the screen, and I'm not smart enough to know how that flips and mirrors around to the audience. But I guess there are times where like you're on stage and you could like look at the main stream and be like, oh, hey, what's going on there? Maybe I'm just pure of heart and never thought to do that live, but yeah, I guess that does make sense, that it would happen like that. But it's still a funny kind of thing to point out there. Another thing I want to point out, I had Ray's on during the Big House recap a year and a half ago. And one of the things Ray's alluded to about Big House was that it was a tournament for O2ers. Basically, there's thousands of people playing in Smash, and a lot of them are going to be knocked out in their first two double limb games. So they go 0-2 and they're done. So there's a lot of things there. That's why the DDR, like the arcade, like somebody said, a pool table. Big House had a chess setup station. I would hope that was at Genesis too, because that'd be fun. But there's a lot of other extra things just to keep people entertained over the course of the weekend, because some people are literally eliminated Friday and they're still there till like Monday, so they need something there. That's why all that extra stuff is kind of there. It does make things cool, but yeah, I can understand the comms, the distractions that can take place with Splatoon with that stuff. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Popcast. We're going to do something Friday. I don't know if I'm going to do a Loink preview, but we're behind the scenes working on something for Friday within IPL. So we have an announcement for that coming out a little bit later. Until then, if you'd like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out at my socials in the middle of that thing there. Popgun is my Discord. Blue Sky, it's just Popgun as well. As I'm stalling, looking for somebody to raid who I haven't raided in a while. I don't know much of who these folks are. Let's just raid this person. Also, one other thing, correction. I believe it was Siren who got mentioned as one of the TOs. I don't think Siren did anything other than volunteer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Rizza did. So shout outs to Rizza, Magic, and Hammer. See you guys on Friday.